Hi, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to give us just one more minute to make sure everyone who registered has time to join us, and then we're going to go ahead and get ourselves settled in.
Hello.
Hi.
I'll go tell them.
Sure, that sounds good.
Most of us are just in this office.
Oh, I don't think I set a password. Let's see. I'll copy the invite link into the chat.
Okay.
All right, let's go ahead and get started because it is
Yeah. We don't
101.
wait for Andrea. I think she's here too.
Yes.
Okay,
Andrea
let's
Garcia,
go.
I see her, and Lupe is also here.
Yeah.
And
That's
I am also recording today, so if someone was unable to meet today, that's okay. They can always watch the recording. I can send it to you.
Thank you so much, Christine.
No problem. So, welcome everybody. My name is Christine. I am a training and development specialist with Boxlight EOS, who partners with Google so that we can provide you with trainings on all the Google applications that are available to you. Prior to joining Boxlight EOS, I taught fourth grade and first grade at a Google district. So I'm really excited to again be a part of Google and share how we can use Google in the classroom to amplify teaching and learning. So if you guys want to share what grade level you are or what subjects you're teaching, that would be great so I can get to know you a little bit. Today's focus, though, is going to be on Google Data Studio. And there are so many ways we can apply Google Data Studio in our classrooms. And our students, if they're older, maybe in high school, could even start applying Google Data Studio to help them analyze and evaluate their own data.
We're office staff. The three of us right now, we work at the district office.
Okay.
And we want to be able to learn. I know we're not going to learn everything in 1 hour, but use spreadsheet and present them in visual in charts and dashboard fashion.
Charts and dashboard. I think that what I'm going to provide for you today is going to be a little bit different in the sense of the data example I provide for you. But Google Data Studio is very intuitive. So even though you might be working with a data set that's not something you do every day, you can apply the skills to your own data afterwards. So today I am going to be sharing a data set with you. But if you maybe want to start with your own data and jump in there and explore, feel free to. You do not have to use my example. Okay, so the objectives, what we're going to do today. First, we're going to take some time to meet Data Studio and learn about the environment. And we're going to talk about importing data from Google Sheets. And you can also import CSV files. We're going to create a data source in Data Studio, and what that's going to do is connect our data to Data Studio. Then we're going to configure charts in the report and filter and format our data. And finally, when we have our data all organized and prepared, we're going to talk about the best way to share and protect our data when we are sharing it. So Google Data Studio. The best way to think about Google Data Studio is that it is a blank canvas where you can organize your data however fits your need. Oftentimes we might be importing data. I have someone in the waiting room, I'm going to admit. Oftentimes we import data into maybe a presentation or we keep it within a sheet. And it fits really well within a presentation because it updates automatically, but a Google Data Studio helps and allows others to interact with the data as well. So if you want to have someone preview the data and manipulate and filters or reorganize the data so they can interpret it in different ways, Google Data Studio is the perfect environment in order to do that. You couldn't necessarily do that within a presentation. Along with Google Data Studio, within this canvas, you have access to text, so you can add text to reinforce what you're trying to present. You can add hyperlinks. You can add those interactive controls that I mentioned. And the nice thing is it's free. You're able to connect with any devices. And since we have district educators here, you can definitely apply this when you're evaluating data. Teachers might use this to evaluate student goal achievements, maybe class achievements, or maybe even to create a resource library for their students. Okay, so there are some things that I want to share with you, some language so that we have a better understanding of what the Data Studio holds. So first we have data sets, and what data sets is, it's going to be the dimensions, which are the categories that we've created. So at the top here, I have standards. So these standards would represent my dimensions. And then the metrics include the numbers and counts or ratios or sums that I have created within my sheet. So if I jump into my Google Sheet here, if I were to upload this, I would need to first make sure before I share this with Google Data Studio, I need to make sure that my headers are clear, and then also need to make sure that my metrics are represented well enough that Google Data Studio will be able to interpret it. So definitely take some time to evaluate your data before importing it into Google Data Studio. The reason why is we're going to have a connector in between, and it's going to tell Data Studio, here's all the data, please use this in the report. But if we change a header, we're going to create some confusion. So it's best to always take some time and review your data in a sheet and make sure it's clear before we convert it into Google Data Studio. You can always add new data to your Google Data Studio. For instance, because I have my headers all set up, I could add more data for each student within the different columns, and it will update within my report. But if I added another column, that would add confusion and wouldn't be supported. So I would have to create a new report. Okay, jumping back into our presentation, what we just talked about was all of the data. So this is the data set, is the collection of data that we have. Now we have this collection. Where are we going to put it? Well, we want to put it within a new data source. So the data source is going to be that connector between our data and our report in Google Data Studio. So what it does is it asks you, okay, where do you want to grab your data from? Do you want to grab it from a Google Sheet? Okay, great. Which sheet and which worksheet would you like to create a Google Data Studio report on? So you will tell it which items you're looking for and which worksheet you would like to grab from. And once it connects to all of that data, you can create a clear report. So again, it connects your data to the report. It's your source for where your data is going to be pulled. And it's going to be pulling the dimensions and the metrics. Okay, so now the fun stuff. We're going to do a little bit of practice. I'm going to present to you these steps, and then I'm going to provide you a few minutes to try it yourself. So the first things first, what I'm going to do is open Data Studio, which is probably what we're very eager to all try. Let's see, I'm going to open a link in a new tab. And while that loads, I'm just going to run through these steps. So when you open Data Studio, it has that classic plus create button that's available within your drive. When you click on that, you're not going to see the classic list of different applications. Instead, you're going to see data source or report, and then another feature as well. What we're going to start with is grabbing our data first, so we have something to play with and manipulate within our report. So after we click plus create, we're going to select data source, and we're going to choose a spreadsheet or a worksheet. So because I clicked on this link, I opened Data Studio. I'll share this in the link, but again, I'm going to show you the process that I'm going to take. I shared it in the chat. I shared the link in the chat. So now that I'm at my Data Studio, I'm going to run through it a little bit. We have some templates here, but today we're going to create we're going to create a fresh document. So what we're going to do is click create. And then again, you have these options. So if I wanted to jump right into reports, I could, but because we're starting brand new today, we're going to start with data source. So I'm going to click data source after plus create, and it's going to ask me, where do I want to get my data from? So I can select Google Sheets. Often all of our data is saved within Google Sheets if we've been working within a Google application. However, if you have a CSV file, you can connect it to the file upload by using the file upload button. And what it will do is it will save that CSV file to Google Cloud so that you can grab all of that data and put it within your Google Data Studio. So those are your two options. Today, we're going to be focusing on Google Sheets because we don't have time to do both. So I'm going to click Google Sheets. And what I'm going to be looking for is my 4th grade standards. And that's the title of my sheet. You can see I have a bunch of different sheets here that I could pull from. And when I select one, it's going to break down the sheet into worksheets. So this would be all of the different pages that I have available within this sheet. And I'm going to select, let's see, I'm going to select pre-test because I have a bunch of student test scores there. Maybe you're evaluating for the district ACT scores and you would like to compare ACT scores by different schools in your district. You could definitely do that right from here as well. You would just need the Google Sheet with all of the ACT scores. So now that I've clicked pre-test, I'm going to leave these items checked. This is just letting me know that the first row is going to signify my headers or my dimensions. And then I'm going to click, let's see, let me jump back to my presentation. We're going to choose a spreadsheet and worksheet from the table. So we're going to stop there. So now that we have it selected, we're sticking with pretest. We're going to pause and I'm going to jump into my report. So I'm jumping back into this presentation and I'm going to leave up this list of steps so that you can all try it. And in case you don't want to manipulate with your own data, again, using Google Data Studio will not impact your data. Your data will be preserved. It'll just be grabbing information and pulling it into the report. But if you want to manipulate the same data I can share a copy of this with you. And that is in the chat. So by clicking on that link, you can create your own copy and it'll save to the drive and so that you can connect it to Data Studio. All right, I will give us 2 minutes to do that. And so I will pause us at 1:16. If you have any questions, I am monitoring the chat, but we do also have a small group today, so you can feel free to unmute yourself on your microphone and share any questions. Oh, I was just informed we don't have access to that sheet. So let me go ahead and jump in and adjust the permissions. Okay, you may need to be signed in if you have not signed in to your Google account in order to make a copy. But you'll just click the blue copy button and it should provide you with access to that spreadsheet. And I'll put it in the chat again, just in case we lost the previous link.
I just shared a copy with you, Claudia.
Okay. All right, so this is where we should all be. We should have 4th grade standards selected, and I'm gonna do pre-test. If you would like to follow along with me, you can also stick with pre-test as well. But again, if you want to jump into your own, feel free to do that as well. All right, jumping back to our presentation now, we're about to enter a report. So this is where it's gonna get fun. So when you jump into a report, what you're going to see is, again, that blank canvas. There's so much possibility, but there are some things that we can do, and this is what we're gonna start with today. First, we're gonna start with creating and interacting with tables and charts. We're gonna talk about how we can filter data to those data and charts that we create. And we can also create different pages and also create layouts and themes for those pages so that we can make sure that our data is presented clearly. When you open your Data Studio and you begin to edit, the most important feature, more than this blank canvas, is going to be this menu over here that you find to the right. That is where you're going to see your data, and you'll be able to pull different dimensions and your metrics into that space. So I'm going to complete these 2 steps with you. We're going to click connect and create report, just so that we can jump into the report. So I'm jumping back into where we had initially left off. We have everything that we want selected. So I'm going to click connect in the upper right corner. And what it's going to do is it's going to compile all of that data, and it's going to tell us what how it read the data. So you can see it says that there's 4 dimensions that are available for this data. We have a date, we have growth, we have a pretest, and we have Q2. And if you look, it'll even identify the type. So we have, this is a text, it's just names, it's a list of names. We have growth, which is a number. We have a pretest, which is a number, and we have Q2, which is a number. And you can see it's even going to do an aggregation for us over here. This metrics at the bottom, the record count, you're going to see throughout reports. This is handy if you're concerned about duplicates, because it lets you know how many items are repeating, or if you have one item. So it'll often pop up. Once you check it, if you want to keep it there, you can keep it there, but it can always be removed too. But it's just a really handy record count of what's repeating, what's duplicated, or what's an individual item. So within here, there are some things we can change. So for instance, if I want maybe growth to not be a sum, maybe I want to see the average growth, I can click sum and change my aggregation here. I'll leave it sum for now. Again, what you do here is just make sure that it's reading and compiling your data accurately. If you notice maybe the dimensions are not how you want them, or something is missing, it would be time to go back to your data and start over and fix the data the way you would like it to be represented, and then try syncing it and reconnecting it again. But since this is what we would want, again, we're working with something a little simpler here. We only have 4 dimensions. I'm going to click create report, and create report is up here in the top right, and it should be sending me now to a blank report. So I'm just going to click add report. It's telling me that standards pretest has been created. That's my connector. And I'm going to click add. And what you should see is your blank canvas. And it has the habit of creating a table for you. Don't need to worry about that. But then you can see your data over here to the right. So just 2 steps for right now: connect and create report. I'll give us about 30 seconds to do that, and then we'll jump to the next phase.
What are we supposed to do after the table loads?
So after the table loads, you're all set. So
Okay.
if everybody is there already, I can continue. All right, I'm getting thumbs ups, so we will continue on. All right, so now that we have the report created, it's time to start thinking about what we want to see within this blank canvas. So we have a table that's already been created, but what do we want to see? Do we want to see a table? Do we want to see a chart? What do we want to convey and make clear? And also keeping it truthful. So if I jump to the next slide, what we're going to talk about is the next steps that we can do. I'm going to jump into Google Data Studio and demonstrate, but then I will also again provide you 2 minutes to practice yourself. So what we're going to do is add a chart and a table. We're going to click and drag metrics and dimensions into the menu so we can compile the data onto the chart and evaluate it. And if we want to remove something, we can click the X. So again, just 2 steps, but this is a little bit more interactive. So I'm going to jump back into my report, and I have this table. Again, this is the record count, and what it's telling me right now is that I have 1 student. I have 1 student that's student 8, I have 1 student that's student 16, and I don't really want to see this within my table. So what I'm going to do is remove it from the metric. And so now I just have my list of students. Over here, we have available fields. And if we're familiar maybe with pivot tables, we might have heard of fields previously. So what we can do is we can click and drag these items and pull them into the table. So if I want a table, if I want to see what this would look like in a table, all I would need to do is click and drag one of my dimensions, and I could either put it in the table or I could put it underneath dimensions because that's where it belongs. So here's pretest. Oh, it looks like it kicked out my students. So let me go ahead and grab students, put it back in there. So now I have 2 things within dimensions, and you can see I have my students next to pretest. If I want to grab another one, again, I can always grab another one and add a dimension by clicking and dragging, or I can click the plus sign and add an item this way as well. So let's add
Christine,
quarter 2. Yes.
where it says available fields, why are mine different than yours? Mine just lists Q1 through 6, and I see yours has the 2023 growth and pretest.
So we might need to jump in and check our dimensions within our connector. So if I jump back to my data studio, if we want to see what those dimensions look like, if I click data sources, we should check our data source. So I can go to 4th grade standards pretest, because that's what it told us it was called. And I should have 1, 2, 3, 4 dimensions.
Okay.
Do you see that?
1, 2, yes.
Okay. So then those should be appearing here on the side.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If the problem persists at the end, we can go over it together. So we already have this automatic table, but what if this table wasn't here? Or maybe we didn't want a table, we wanted to add a chart. The reports page has a bunch of different tools here available for us. We can add text, images, and a chart. So on our list here, we were required to add a table. Let's go ahead and add a chart. So I'm going to click the plus add chart button, and it provides me a full list of different charts that I have available. I have scorecards, which might come in handy for those tests. I have bar charts, pie charts, and line charts as well. If I'm comparing growth, I might think a line chart might be more beneficial. So I can grab, let's say, this line chart. To grab it, all I need to do is click, and it will start following my mouse around. I have these crosshairs looking mouse, and I can just place it wherever I would like. You can see they even include guidelines, so I can match it up with other items on my blank canvas. So again, record count follows us around a little bit. If you don't want it, you can click the X next to it and remove it. But let's go ahead and pull in pretest and Q2 into our record count here. So I'm just going to click and drag. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. I'm going to click and drag pretest and Q2 so I can compare how the students are doing between these two tests that we've completed. So as you can see within the chart, as I hover my mouse around it, it even pulls out specific data points so that I can see and visually compare those two elements. So I'm going to give us some time to play around and manipulate the data with what we have available. So go ahead and add a chart, add a table, delete it, try different charts and tables, see what you can come up with, and then use those dimensions and metrics to convey the data and make a visualization. I'll give us 2 minutes to explore that.
Thank you. That's really cool.
It gets even more exciting. I'm really looking forward to what else I can show you as well. If you've already created a table and a chart and you're breezing through, feel free to check out other items that are on that top of the table where you grab the chart from. For instance, feel free to add some text if you have time, or maybe even an image. Image works very similar to other applications where you can grab it from your desktop, for example, or your local drive. Hi, Christina. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to put Google Data Studio, the link in the chat, so that you can jump into Google Data Studio. And I'm also going to share some example data where you can make a copy of it and manipulate it without having to worry about disrupting any of your personal files that you have. Right now, what we've done is added a chart in Google Data Studio and a table. And we're going to actually back up a little bit here, so hopefully we can catch you up. So now that we've played around with charts and tables, let's jump into talking about what else we can do within Google Data Studio. Earlier, we connected our data with that data connector, and we looked at the dimensions and metrics, and we even noticed that over to the right, there was some default aggregation. So if I jump over to Google Data Studio, here's my Data Studio, and I have my reports page. When you click on that link, I believe it takes you right here. But the most important thing is those data sources, and we added fourth grade standards pre-test. So from here we have those dimensions and then the default aggregations. So we can always change them here and then update our report. But you can also do it within the report as well. So I'm going to jump into my untitled report. And at the end, we should definitely change our name so that it's saved with something clear and we can keep organized. But for now, what we want to do is talk a little bit about what we can do if we want to maybe find the sum or an average for specific data. So if you noticed on the side here, we have growth. So from the pre-test to quarter two, how much growth have students shown within this test? Maybe it's evaluating students on all of their on their knowledge of all of the content spanning the year. So we're in quarter two. Now it's time to reevaluate, see if we're growing as we continue. And then at the end of the year, we'll take another test and then we can compile that data again. When you click on plus add chart, there are a bunch of different chart types that you have available, but we also mentioned the scorecard. So the scorecard you can click and you can add it to your table, or I'm sorry, onto your report. But another thing you can do is just click and drag your field onto the report anywhere. And you'll notice that it's created that score chart for you already. See, it says total underneath 1,168. So I'm just going to drop it there. And now it's changed it to 306, but that's not really what I want. I want an average of all the students. I don't necessarily want the sum of growth. So if I jump over to my data menu, I can evaluate how the metric is compiled and change that. So if I don't want sum for my growth, I'm going to click on that marker here and change it. So I can change it to sum. I can change it to average, count, etc. So you can always readjust the metrics right within your report. So I'm going to click average, and there it now saves for my students. And I can even move it around. So if I want to keep it here, I can keep it here. And then we can evaluate all of this content together. And that's a little bit of the layout, moving things around. So I'm going to move on, but again, that is just another option for how you can pull content into your report. Any questions so far?
I have a question.
Sure.
On the right side, where it says data, you know, and then the name of the spreadsheet below it, right? Yeah, the one you. Oh, I was just going to ask you, how did you expand that? Because I lost.
So it does disappear whenever you click on the blank canvas, but it'll reappear depending on what you select. Because each one of these is
I got it.
Maybe, yeah, representing something, and I'll just keep going just in case anybody else has this question. Each one of these could be representing something different. Again, it's whatever you want to visualize. So if this table maybe doesn't need to represent all of the dimensions that I have here, I can remove some dimensions while still keeping all these different dimensions within a different chart. So whatever you want to convey, each one of these elements will convey those things. Again, growth is going to be different. It's not going to have the same dimensions. So when I click on it, you'll notice that the data and the dimensions will change. So that is just a real quick summation of where that data goes. And that was a great question to lead on to the next thing. So the next thing we're going to talk about is theme and layout. So when we're talking about theme and layout, we have our charts and we've compiled a list of different elements within our report. Now what we want to do is create some theme and create a clear layout. When you are creating a theme, you can create a customized theme that reflects your school or your district, or maybe your own personalized website. But then also you can take each piece and manipulate each piece so that it will stand out or match the theme a little bit better. So we're going to talk a little bit about that because there's some really great features that can you can pull in to unify your whole report. So jumping back into my report, since we're on theme and layout, we're getting towards the end. I'm just going to change the name of my report now. So just by clicking on it, you can see you'll have the right to edit the report. So I'm going to change this to Sandbox report because it's one I'm just practicing in. And what we want to do now is change the theme and layout of the entire page. In order to do that, I'm going to jump to theme and layout, and it's going to open up a new menu for me on the right. Within this, I have the option to select pre-made layouts for myself, but I can also create a customized theme, or if I don't have time to create a theme and I want it to match something, I can extract a theme from an image. So if you have an image of the Golden Plains Unified School District logo, you can pull that image into here, and Google Data Studio will offer you options that match that theme. So that's just one of the options there. So I'll just click on, let's do Edge text. I'll do Edge so you can see how it changes. So you can see that the background has become the soft gray, and my headers have also changed as well compared to the default. Some of these other themes and layouts will also change the color of your lines and your data as well. So you can adjust it for the whole document, or you can manipulate each piece. So if I, for example, want this chart to stand out, if I click on the chart, again, it pulls down the specific data for this chart, but next to the chart, we have style. So if I click on style right next to data, we can manage this chart a little bit more to make sure what we want to stand out and visualize is there for us. So again, it's breaking down the series. So our first series, I believe it looks like maybe that would be record count. Let's change it to bars and find out. Yep, so there's my bars. Each student is 1. Let me remove that from my data. Just clicking X, there we go. So now my pretest, because that's now series 1, it's been moved up to series 1. Now that's bar chart. I'm gonna make it line again. And I can also adjust the line weight. So if I want it to stand out a little bit more, I can adjust the weight, the color. And then also if I scroll down past series, I have more options. For example, with axes, I can show axes or I can remove them. This would be really great for when you want to maybe show data and represent data without highlighting specific individuals or entities. So if you're showing a list of all of the schools and maybe you don't necessarily want to pick on and highlight how each school individually is doing, this could really represent how the data is doing overall for the whole district. For a classroom, what you might do is remove all your students. So students don't necessarily know what order the students are in, but we're working on a cumulative goal for the whole classroom. So we want to see the data together as a class. So let's show axes again. And then along with that, what we want to do is we need some axis titles. So actually, I'll get rid of students and let's show the titles. So we have post-test and quarter 2 test. And let's see, I need to scroll all the way down to find the other axis. Sometimes I miss it. Let's see, did I miss it? Oh, there it is. Where's the title though? I think I'm missing it. I'm probably looking right at it. But anyways, you can manage your individual entities right within by clicking on them and then selecting style. So another great thing is maybe this text format isn't quite great for me as a reader. So what I can do is adjust the text. Let's see. Here's the text. So my legend, this is where I can change my text. If I don't necessarily want this text type, I can change and format it here. And then also, if my borders don't stand out and I need them to, I can also adjust and fill them here. So let's just make it bright green. Let's see what happens. So that background border doesn't necessarily fit. It's not easy to read. So again, we can change it by just changing the backgrounds. And let me pick white because white works the best. The reason why I wanted to highlight this is because sometimes when you're working within a layout, the text will match the background or the background will match the text and it's difficult to read. So knowing that style feature comes in handy, especially when you're working within multiple charts and you have multiple features going on. So making sure that you know where the styles are can really help make the text clear and visible. Another thing is, on the data that I'm sharing with you now, there is no blank cell. But sometimes when you pull in data, a blank cell will be apparent, it will be there. When you pull it within reports, what will happen is that it will state that it's null. And so what you'll notice is that you'll have a count that says null, and you might have 5 or 1 or several cells that are identified as null. In order to get rid of that, you can go to the style and it'll have a specific menu for null where you can change how null is conveyed within your report. So just being aware of that as an option, because oftentimes there will be maybe one cell that didn't need data or is missing the data currently. You don't necessarily want it to state null. So I'm going to jump back to our presentation. I'm going to give us some time to play with themes and layouts. So if you want to change the entire document, you'll click theme and layout. Again, that's that button here at the top. And if you want to change the chart style, what you'll do is click on the chart that you want to change and then select style and just run through the menus to see what you want to change and adjust. So you can adjust the text and formatting if you'd like, or you can even adjust the backgrounds. I'll give us a minute to do that together before we move on. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move us on into permissions now. So we have about 15 minutes left and I want to provide us some time to ask questions and show you some other things as well if we have time. So I'm going to jump us into permissions. With all Google applications, there are different permissions that you can provide. You can make sure that the document is only viewable, or you can make sure that a person has edit rights. Within Google Reports, the studio, you do not need to provide the individual that is either viewing or editing your report with the Google Sheet or the source of your data. So if you want to make sure that individuals do not have the right to view or edit your Google Sheet or the data that you've compiled. Google Data Studio can be really helpful in that way by providing all the data that they can edit and manipulate and filter through without touching your authentic data. So that's one benefit. So as the owner, you created the document, you have owner control. So you can edit, delete, share, and download your document. In addition, within the Manage Access, you have permission to determine who are the editors and what they can do, including adding new people. And you also have permission to control what viewers can do. So you can disable viewers from downloading, printing, and copying, for example. So here the editors and viewers are broken down. Edit, they can edit the report, and if you allow them to, they can add other individuals. And viewers, they can view and manipulate the data, but they will not be able to make changes to the document. So we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like, and then I'll provide you guys some time to explore permissions yourself. So I'm jumping back into our sandbox. And one thing we have not talked about, and maybe you've explored it and discovered it yourself, but next to add chart, we have add a control. And this can come in handy, especially if you have a large list of schools or of dimensions. So if I click on drop down list, for example, this one's the one of the easier ones to add to any data list. And if I click down, now what it will do is it will filter out the data for a specific student in this case, because we have a list of students. So for instance, if I see student 18 and I want to pull that data maybe for a specific report, I can click only, and it unselects all the other students. And now I can see their growth on the chart, in the table, and in my scorecard. So this control that I've added can be edited by me, my editors, and also the viewers. So if somebody wants to view and explore the data, these add controls can become really helpful. So now that we have something to interact with, I'm going to deselect that, which will select everyone. And I'm going to now share it. So I need to share it out. And in order to do that, I'm going to click the plus share button. Now, when I'm sharing, I can add people with their email addresses and adjust how they view it, or if they can edit here. So can view, can edit. I can also manage access and turn off or on if specific people can join using a link. So anyone on the internet can find and view this link, or anyone on the internet can find and edit this link. So depending on what you want that link to do, you can select that from here. Sometimes sharing a link is a little bit easier than adding a group of individuals by email. I'm going to add myself as an example. So I've added myself. I maybe want this person to be a viewer for now. I will keep view and I'll select send. And we should be familiar with this routine. We often do this with other applications, but I'm going to click plus share again, because what I want to do now is jump over to manage access. Now that I have Christine here who can view, I want to make sure that they are not able to download, print, or copy to other viewers. So I'm going to click disable and save, and that will make sure that they do not have the ability to download, make copies of this data. So now I'm all done. I'll click save, and they should be receiving an email that they have permission to view the document. So I'll give you guys some time, or I'll give you all some time to try this. Click share, add a person's email, maybe someone here today, or you can add my email. Again, this is just a sandbox lesson. So whoever you share it with, make sure they know that it's just for practice, or you can share it with your personal. And then afterwards, make sure that this person can only view, and disable downloading and printing so that they don't have access to share it with anyone. I did add my email in case anybody would like to use that one. I will give us a minute to try this.
Is that timer just with YouTube? We have to look for it. I like it.
Oh, yeah, I can share that in the chat.
Thank you.
Go-to timer.
I never saw it before.
All right, hopefully we've had time to explore sharing features. Jumping back into my sandbox now, what I want to do is I'm just going to add a title. I'm going to move this over here and I'm going to add a title. And now I'm going to distribute this. So what I'm going to add my title first. So 4th grade data. And again, when I click on it, I have my properties where I can edit how my table title looks. And now I'm going to click view so I can see how viewers see it. So this is what the viewers can see. It's very simple. We might add more information here, or I could have uploaded pictures. And then if I want to download, you can do this from edit or from view. You'll click the 3 dots. I call it a snowman or a kebab. And oh, actually, I think you do need to be in edit. Let's see. This is usually, oh, I'm sorry. You from share, the down arrow at share is where you find the download report. So you can download it here, or if you want an embed code, you can grab the embed code as well. And then you can put it into a website if you'd like. So those are your options for sharing. Again, it's right next, it's a little arrow next to share. You do have this option here with the 3 dots, the kebab. Very important if you want to refresh your data, that button comes in handy, especially if you have things that are changing. But with view, this is what it would look like, and this is how it would be presented to a viewer. All right, I'm going to jump into our recap now. So what did we do? We met Data Studio today. We talked about how we can import data resources, including Google Sheets, and where we can find the file upload for CSV files. We created a data source in Data Studio and talked about what we can manage within the data source. And we configured charts and reports. We also talked about filtering the data that we have within a chart or table. And we talked about how we can add collaborators and share with viewers within Google Data Studio. So it's a really fun environment. It's a really great way to perceive and share data. I'm going to open up for questions, but first I want to share the sign out with you. It's in the chat. We appreciate your feedback.
That was very interesting. Thank you.
Yes.
I don't think we're going to learn it in 1 hour setting, but I'm hoping that we can actually now, start using it to the point where we can start learning in our own, or maybe there is a more advanced class.
Yeah, I can talk to our team and see if there would be a more advanced class, and we can gear the next class maybe towards what your data would look like more versus just a classroom's individual data. But if we have some people who are exploring right now and have some questions, maybe you've used your own data, I can try my best to answer those as well.
Thank you.
All right, since I'm not hearing any questions, I'm going to highlight one more quick thing. Within my sandbox, I'm going to jump back into Edit. And if I select my chart again, one thing that we did not talk about within data is if I scroll down all the way to the bottom, we have this add filter button. So if I click on that, I can add another filter to the data. So what this would do is maybe remove some extra content that I don't necessarily need to see. So if I click add filter, it opens up a new menu, and I can even name the specific filter if I would like. So depending on what I want to see, I could maybe name it pre-test less than 30. So individuals who received a score less than 30. Let me make it a little higher because I'm not sure if anybody scored that low. And then I can include or exclude specific fields. So I want to grab from my pre-test because that's what I've named it. And I'm going to add less than or equal to. And they're providing me with a clear example that says 1. So I'm going to make sure it says less than or equal to 60. And I should probably add the equal sign there so my name matches what I'm creating. And then I can click save, and it will create an update for me. So that just shows a little bit of how you can add filters, and it just adjusted as well. And it, I believe it would remove the students who scored higher than 60 on the pretest. So yeah, so everything's below 60 now. So that's another filter option that you have available. I'm going to provide you all an example of how a K through 12 Education Data Studio report collection might look like, just so you can see a little bit more of what else you can do with it. Within this report that I'm sharing, what they've done is added those filters that I had shown you, and then they've also added they've broken down their collection into descriptions and school organizations. And they've also added hyperlinks as well. So this is some of the options that you have available when you're creating Google Studio. So this might just help guide you along the way when you're thinking about how you want to present and visualize what you're working with. But I think that is time. I'm going to stick around just for a minute in case you have any questions. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Christine. That was good. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
That was good. Thanks.